Nakajima A6M2-N. Flight and technical characteristics. Engine: Nakajima Sake 12. Power: 940 horsepower. Wingspan: 12 meters. Aircraft length: 10.131 meters. Aircraft height: 4.305 meters. Wing area: 22.438 square meters. Weight, kilogram. Empty aircraft: 1,921. Takeoff: 2,460. Speed, kilometers per hour. Maximum: 436. Cruising speed: 300. The climb time is 5,000 meters, 6.75 minutes. Practical ceiling: 7,960 meters. Maximum flight range: 1,780 kilometers. Nakajima A6M2-N. The history of the aircraft. In 1940, preparing for a large-scale war in the Pacific, the Imperial Japanese Navy's Aviation Directorate recognized the need to create a floatplane fighter intended to cover landing forces before ground aviation could relocate to captured airfields. The development of a new aircraft in accordance with the tactical and technical requirements of 15C in September 1940 was assigned to the company Kawanishi. However, even then it was clear that the new aircraft, the future N1K1, would reach combat readiness in 2 years at best. And a big war was expected much earlier. In such a situation, it was decided to adapt the successful Mitsubishi A6M2 fighter to be based on water. But the design team of the developer company was loaded with the development of a new deck modification A6M3. Therefore, in February 1941, the creation of the hydro variant, which received the designation A6M2N, was entrusted to the Nakajima Company, which received the Tactical and Technical Task 16C. The development of the seaplane, which received the internal designation AS1, was headed by engineer Mitsutake. Since almost the main requirement of the customer was the tight deadlines for the creation of the aircraft, the designers tried to do with a minimum of changes. The fuselage and wing were taken from the base A6M2. In their design, elements unnecessary for a seaplane were eliminated, such as a wheeled landing gear. The landing gear niches were sewn with metal sheets, a landing hook, a wing folding mechanism and an anti-fog frame behind the pilot's cabin. Under the fuselage, the main float of an all-metal design was installed, taken almost unchanged from the Nakajima E8N1 reconnaissance seaplane. The float was attached to the fuselage by a large inclined pylon and a V-shaped strut located behind it, and the point of attachment of the pylon was in the place where the outboard fuel tank was suspended from the deck zero. The A6M2N had a fuel tank with a capacity of 325 liters in the float. 2 small stabilizing floats were mounted on thin pylons under the wing consoles. Due to the need to improve track stability when starting from water, it was necessary to increase the area of the vertical tail. To do this, an additional keel was installed under the tail part of the fuselage, the shape and area of which were selected experimentally during prototype tests. Interestingly, the aircraft was not adapted for launching from shipboard catapults. The armament and power plant of the A6M2N fully corresponded to the basic deck version. Tests of the hydraulic destroyer began on December 7, 1941. Flight characteristics were predictably worse than that of the deck version. And although the weight of the A6M2N increased by only 167 kilograms compared to the A6M2, the maximum speed, due to the increase in drag caused by the installation of floats, fell by almost 100 kilometers per hour. The maximum flight range has been reduced by almost half, from 3,230 to 1,778 kilometers. In February 1942, the second prototype was made, and in March mass production began. 10 production machines were produced. But the official decision to adopt followed only after the complete completion of the test program on July 2, 1942. By that time, 34 serial hydraulic destroyers had already been delivered. During the production process, changes had to be made to the design of the hydroplane caused by operational experience. In particular, it turned out that the aluminum-magnesium alloy used for plating easily corrodes upon contact with seawater. I had to use an alloy of a different brand, more resistant. They also subjected the motor frame to strengthening, the shock loads on which, when driven, turned out to be higher than the calculated ones. By the end of serial production, changes were made to the design of the tail, increasing the height of the keel and making its outlines more angular, and also increased the area of the ventral keel. Serial production of the A6M2-N continued until July 1943. 254 according to other sources 262 aircraft were built at the Koizumi plant. In the Allied code system, Ruth was designated